Sallie, welcome to Revitalized Womanhood. I am so excited to have you here because finally I have you here, right? I was already explaining to my listeners that we have had this booked last month, and actually even before that I was trying to get you booked, but you are a busy lady. You were going around doing some speaking or something when I was trying to get you booked previously or something, or you were going to a retreat, something that looked fabulous actually. And so when I saw you posting about it, I'm like, yeah, I would have rather been doing that too. Yeah. So in Costa Rica, I've been so excited to have you on that when Costa Rica I got there and the internet was just so bad, I was like, nope, we're not even going to waste our time doing this. Let's just do it when I get back. And I'm so thankful. And your team is amazing. You have an amazing team helping you out because they are so sweet and so helpful to get you organized, keep me organized. Your team is keeping me organized.
I know, right? Well, hey, it takes a village for all of us. I mean, no one does it alone. Certainly not me. So I'm very, very lucky to be surrounded by some other amazing women. Absolutely.
So I got to listen to you speak at the Unstoppable Conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And this community for me is not necessarily so much focused on entrepreneurs. However, I am trying to teach these ladies that are stay-at-home moms that they are the CEO of their home. So we need to be running it like that, right? So for me, you totally,
it's a job
whatever.
As well. So
yeah, absolutely. So why don't would you please introduce yourself to my listeners and then we will jump right into it?
Oh gosh, what a loaded question too.
And where do you begin, right? Because
I know.
That's the whole reason why I love you so much is you did not think you would be here, right? You had a completely different path.
I did not picture myself here at all. I took the traditional road to quote unquote success and became an attorney right out of undergrad. So I went straight to law school and then went on to practice labor and employment litigation, like as within the box of confinement as you could possibly be. And I just didn't know any better. And so I did that actually for 10 years until I got to the point of the pain being so great that the potential pain of change didn't look so bad anymore. Someone actually even earlier this morning, I was at a speaking engagement and she asked me, how did you know that you were ready to change? And I said, yeah, it's always going to be through a process of pain and the endurance of it. And the point at which we decide the potential pain of change, it does no longer outweighs the pain of staying the same. The pain of staying the same scared the crap out of me. And I didn't want to be in that same place 5 years, heck, even a year from now. And so I was fortunate enough to have somewhat of an easy kind of transition out of the practice of law by being able to take over a law firm as their chief operating officer. So I did that for 3 years. I took over a corporate and tax firm. And then I did the COO thing for a little while, serving as a COO for hire. And so I would come into companies and be very focused on their growth and organizational development and effectiveness. And so I did that for 6 different companies over the next 6 years. And then until I had a female entrepreneur come up to me and say, hey, would you coach us to do what you've been doing? And I said, sure, but what does that look like? And how does one coach someone? So, I just poured myself into coaching in the same way that I had anything else, and studied it like crazy and really developed my own approach to coaching. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So, of course, with a whole lot of other pieces of the puzzle as well.
Yes. And at that time when you decided to quit law, when it was, you said, just so painful that the scale was just like, whoop, tipped, yeah. Right? How far along were you in your, because you are a wife, you are a mother, how you had this you had to be a certain person for them, you thought, right? So that is scary. That adds the pain, adds that fear. So how many kids did you have at that time, or did you have all of them still?
Yeah, I had two kids, married. In fact, we had just recently moved for my husband's career as well. And so, I say a lot of that because we can all come up with, reasons in our mind as to why we have to stay stuck exactly where we are, until we reconnect with our own, motives for living and thriving. And I was listening to something recently about, motivation is nothing more than the reconnection with your motives. And I think that is so true. I did that, right? I reconnected with what really makes me feel like me. And that is when I am pushing myself, challenging myself, growing, by learning something new and being able to help others achieve. And so I knew that I could not do any of those things in the current environment that I was in. And that, I think at the end of the day, if we want something bad enough, oftentimes we'll find a way to make it happen. That's why I always tell people that part about pain. Like, are you in enough pain to be willing to, go into the deep end of the pool and just go for what you actually want? Because that's kind of what it takes.
Yeah. And I love that. It actually made me think of my sister-in-law sent me this post the other day, and she says, this made me think of you. And I kind of was like, oh, wait, huh? Oh, I had this full, let's process this moment, but it said something along the lines of, your kids want you to be the mom that you are, not the mom you're trying to be, And so it was like, and I was like, wait a minute, was that a good thing or a bad thing? But I'm like, I took it as a good thing. I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Such a good
I
thing.
decided to take
that.
it's a good thing. But I made me think, though. It made me stop and think. It's like we're constantly trying to do things out of this fear of what ifs or what ifs or what ifs or what ifs. And your whole philosophy now is breaking out of that cycle to be willing and dare to be something that will end up being greater, right? Will end up being because it is truly who we are. It is truly who we genuinely want to be, without all of this we should be's. We could, this pressure to be these things that we check the boxes and think we need to be, right?
Right. I mean, I think that there is so much unhappiness in the world today because, that we try to mirror other people's definition of success, and that we judge our own level of success based on, does mine match someone else's, and play that entire game of comparison. But really, instead, we ought to all realize we are on our own individual journeys, and we're the only people that can define what the destination looks like. And, I think all of the unhappiness comes from being on someone else's journey. And that's what I was on for a really long time. It's like running a marathon, right? And instead of running towards the finish line, you realize, oh my gosh, I've been running on a detour this entire time. And that's what it looks like to me when I kind of visualize what it looks like to, do things only out of compulsion to fit in, to meet other people's standards, because everyone else is doing it, because I feel like I should. You are taking a really long detour to happiness. And it's just going to elongate like the amount of time it takes you to achieve your own internal sense of fulfillment and bliss. And that is all that I feel like I am responsible for showing my kids, is that you can have a happy, joyful, free life. And this is how you go about doing it, is staying as authentic to yourself as you can. And sometimes that's going to look like, unfortunately disappointing other people and challenging the status quo.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. That's so true. I How far from, okay, so you have your podcast, listeners. She has a podcast. It's amazing. And you started that in 2019. And then in 2020, you released your book, Hitting Rock Middle, a roadmap from empty success to true fulfillment. And I love that, rock middle. I love that because it's exactly so. Explain that better for my listeners because I think it is so amazing. And that's exactly what you kind of already talked about, how you were in this box, but explain that a little better because I love it. It's a perfect title.
Well, thank you. I felt trapped and stuck, but I also knew that I was not in a position that a lot of other people were going to feel empathy for me for being in the position I was in, right? I was winning awards and I had a nice salary and a home and two kids and all the boxes checked. So I felt as though I could not complain to anyone about where I was and that I didn't deserve to. That I didn't have a right to complain because I had so much more than other people have. And while all of that is true, it does not negate how I felt, right? I still have a right to feel the way that I do. And I didn't have a name or a terminology to talk to other people about that age and stage of life that I was in. And because I didn't have that terminology, I really didn't talk about it with anyone, right? I was scared to share with other people. I didn't feel like this was a common thing. I didn't feel like other women were experiencing it as well. And, I wasn't at rock bottom. Because, I had all the external trappings of success, but I wasn't at what I would have imagined to be, the top of the rock, if you will, like the pinnacle of success, because I didn't feel that way. It didn't come with the internal feeling of success as well. And so I wanted to come up with a terminology that we could all use to describe this middle place that I do feel like traps a lot of people because there isn't enough nomenclature around it. And so I call it now rock middle, right? It is that middle place where maybe externally it looks successful to the world, but there is a really big, internal difference between what you are showing the world and how you actually feel. And I feel like when that internal difference exists and you feel stuck there, to me, that is exactly rock middle. And it's a difficult place to create change because most of the time at rock bottom, people are like, yes, get out of there. Let me help you. Let me help you create change and all of that. But at rock middle, no one's coming along to say, let me help you change things. Most of the time, in fact, the exact opposite occurs. People say, stay exactly where you are, but you're so successful, but you have such a great career. You must be so happy. You get all of those types of comments. And I found those comments to be really upsetting and frustrating because it wasn't at all how I felt. And so, I really want people to know that this is far more common than people, hopefully now more people are talking about it, but at least years ago, and even 2020, no one's talking about that middle place. And it's really common and it's really easy to get trapped there and stuck there and think you have no way out. No other options except for to continue doing what you've always done. And, that is a really lonely, frustrating place to be. So I wanted to give more women, the idea of you can make change at any point you want to. At any time in your life or career, you can change things and start an entirely new race, create an entirely new trajectory. And it could be the best one you've ever had, no matter what you're experiencing at the moment.
Absolutely. And it's like women, let's say, for example, a stay-at-home mom. and they love it. They love being a stay-at-home mom. They love their kids. They love their husband. They love their household, whatever. Okay, great. I'm not saying anything against that. However, I'm starting to meet and hear from a lot of women who feel like they are trapped, not even trapped. Okay, that's a bad word. Trapped in a wheel, I guess. Though we'll say that.
Yeah.
Trapped in the cycle of monotony or not being fulfilled, even though society tells you you should be fulfilled. You are doing exactly what you should be doing. You should be happy that you're doing that. You're so blessed, right? And yes, that is true, but you're still allowed to feel your feels. We're all different people. We all have our individual needs and wants and desires and whatever. But the same could be said for, just like you're saying, someone who's working, a woman who's working can feel unsatisfied, right? She can feel unsatisfied and know that there's needs that aren't getting met. And it's being able to identify, hey, there's a problem. Something's happening. There's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And make the choice. It's like you're saying, everything is a choice. We have a choice. You have a choice to be a stay-at-home mom. You have a choice to even have kids in the first place. You have a choice to go to work. You have a choice to not go to work. You have right? It's all choices. But for whatever reason, we feel like, oh, but I can't do that, or I'll let someone down, or I'll disappoint someone, or just like you're saying, what you're teaching your kids is, yeah, you may disappoint some people. You may rub, the ideology of what you're going after the wrong way because you're going to do it a different way. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we need to all get more comfortable with what it looks like to be our authentic selves and the ramifications that come from that. We weren't all intended to be here to simply make everyone else happy, right? That's not our job. And it's frankly an impossibility anyway. I always think of those, metrics that are given to women to always be kind and nice to everyone and never disappoint everyone and have a balanced life. Like, all of those to me are just, I don't know if I can cuss on here or not, but
yeah, you create people pleasers.
Yes, but they're all BS because, right, the ramifications of those are all that women stay small. Right? Mm-hmm. Every single one of them results fundamentally in a woman not pursuing her greatest potential. And yes, we're also told that, once you have kids, that should be the most fulfilling thing in the world. And that's all you need to be happy. And it's okay if it is not. Society may say that it should be everything, but science doesn't. Science says that in order to actually be happy, we have to continuously be experiencing growth. And so that growth, yes, can come in the form of a job, but an external job, because it is a very time-consuming and hard internal job to be, a stay-at-home mom. Or it could come in the form of reading a book that challenges you in the way that you think. It could be picking up a new sport, right? It could be, right, challenging yourself to learn, to cook something new. Growth can come in many different forms, but it very often is about reconnecting with your own ambitions, and recognizing that you still have those, and that your happiness will actually be exponentially increased when you do continue to pursue them.
That was such a cool way of saying that. I love that. It hit right on. So I've been listening to your podcast for a while, but I was brushing up on them again today, and especially the one. So instead of dissecting your book and being like, mm-hmm. Hey, here's her book. Hey guys, hey, here's her book. Go get it. Go check it out. Okay, there we go. I'm dissecting this podcast, and it's a part 2 series, this podcast episode. And I wrote out to your team and said that this was just like, when I heard it, I was like, okay, she's like talking to me. She's funneled into my soul. This is happening right now. And so I was writing notes on it again today, but it's, you made a statement, redefine what your best looks like for yourself. Right? Redefine it. It's like you're saying, if you're at home with your kiddos and you're feeling like, okay, I'm treading water. I'm not even above the surface anymore. Look around you and like, there's so many things that you could be doing, like to re-energize your fire. Like, get really good at decluttering. Get really good. There are people getting paid thousands of dollars now to become organizers, right? Do it.
True.
Organize yourself. Like, get creative, right? Find something, like you're saying, a recipe. Find something that just lights that fire in you, and don't be afraid to. So I'll get to this, because this episode that I love is the 5 things to stop doing today, right? And one of them is, of course, I'm going to skip ahead, is perfectionism. It's you cannot be held back by thinking that you can't fail at things. I actually had a gal on here. She's so sweet. I love her to death. And she says, I don't say the word fail. There's no such thing as fail. There's doing and living and growing. You don't fail. You don't fail at something, because then what? You just like stop existing because it didn't work out. You just stop existing. That's fail. Yeah. You're not doing that. You're going to continue. You're going to pivot. You're going to be like, I didn't like how that felt, so I'm going to go this way instead. So it's just doing and going, right?
Yeah. I mean, perfectionism is so toxic for ourselves, for our kids, right? I've actually never known anyone to be perfect at anything, that we are always a work in progress. If we think about the amount of information that is coming into the world on a daily basis today, it is impossible for you to consume all of that information, so that if you are in some sort of knowledge-based business, or you want to say, I'm the best at marketing, it would be impossible for you to consume all of the information in today's world around that one topic, right? Even if you have a very small niche, it would be very impossible for you to do that. And so when you're setting perfectionism as a goal, it really is just a form of self-sabotage. It is a way of, allowing yourself to stay in your comfort zone. I always call it, like, if it feels like you're in a warm snuggie in a blanket wrapped up, and that's how you feel during the day, then you're probably doing something wrong, right? Every day should feel so much more like you are, on the edge of, right, the mountain, like hanging yourself over, that you're a little fearful, and I say it jokingly, like on the edge of throwing up a little bit because you're so nervous, but you're wanting to continuously push yourself and do things you just don't think are possible, because again, like I was saying, that's actually what has the direct correlation to happiness. Nowhere does it say in all the science and all the research, happiness can only be achieved when perfection is achieved. So it actually says happiness is achieved when you are learning, when you are growing. So, we're all afraid to be beginners again. And I think later in life, that's what stops people, is that they've made a choice, like you were hinting at a second ago, is, I've made a choice to be a mom, and so that should be my only choice. And, I've made a choice to start this business or go into this particular area of work. And so they fear making a new choice. And yet, we evolve as human beings, right? Our cells change, every 7 to 10 years. We are different people in our 40s, literally biologically different than we even were in our 30s. So your choices are going to mirror that evolution. And there is no reason to shame yourself about that. And we do that as women, right? All the time. Like, we fail, quote unquote, make a mistake, really, just learning, as your friend was saying. And that's immediately what we run to. And that's why so many women avoid it, is, right, the 3 things that women do when we, quote unquote, fail, or we go straight to shame, lack, and, I was just saying this earlier today. I'll have to remember the other one. Shame, lack, and isolation. Yes. Those are the 3 things, right? And so we think, okay, I've made a right choice. I'm not going to go out there again and make a new choice because it would be detrimental to me. And when I have, and before, this is what resulted: shame, lack, and isolation. So obviously that didn't feel very good. So you retreated back to where you were. And what I would offer you is, again, you can begin again, right? And create a new path, one that is entirely different, all just based on the simple knowledge of those two things. One is that it doesn't have to encompass any of those things, shame, lack, and isolation, and that you're better off when you just simply know that in advance, and that you try to, avoid those. And then the other is that, along the way, you're going to fail, and that it is only through those failures and those missteps that you're going to really identify what it is you do like. I always try to phrase it to clients in that way, is that we're just merely identifying, like an onion, what layers to peel away and what pieces to let go of, and what is at the core. That's really all it is.
So good. I'm taking notes. It's so good. I love it. We're talking about mindset this month in my community, and it got me into, actually, I derailed from it because it's actually, I went with mindset and purpose, and it got me into self-confidence. So I was like, yeah, you've got mindset over here, and that's great. And I kind of had an epiphany, because then I went over here to self-confidence, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's the chicken or the egg here? Because you have to have, these are the fundamentals. This is a foundation. So I started thinking about it as, these are the legs that you stand on to create the perfect tree pose. You're in perfect alignment to create this perfect tree pose. You have to have self-discipline or self-confidence and mindset, right? And so anyway, what do you think is the chicken or the egg? Which one comes first?
I definitely think, without a doubt, that mindset comes first.
You do? I'm opposite.
I
so
do.
Tell me why.
I think because the foundation of all things, is your belief system, right? Your beliefs are what drive the thoughts that you have, and your thoughts drive your actions that you take, and the actions are what drives the outcomes you experience. Now, most of us, and then your outcomes obviously then reinforce your belief system. And so it just goes like this in that circle. I know you guys can't see me, but in that particular circle. And so, when the mindset is, and the belief starts with, I believe that this destination, this thing that I want to achieve, is achievable, and that it is a fact that it is achievable, which to be a fact. If anyone else in the world has achieved it, then it is therefore achievable by you. And so then you can begin to cultivate the self-confidence after that by the replacement of the right thoughts, because at the beginning, that belief system is something you're going to have to continuously work on, right? You're just at the beginning deciding to believe something, which means your thoughts are going to be in contradiction to that belief. And so you're working on it. It's just like a workout. And so you're changing your thoughts, right? Replacing certain statements with more beneficial ones, replacing the negative statements with ones that are going to drive other actions. And to me, self-confidence is generally derived from taking action, right? And oftentimes from outcomes. And so it is seeing then visually, externally, what it is that we believe internally come to fruition. And that ends up reinforcing then the thoughts and beliefs that I end up having. So to me, yeah, it's mindset, and then the self-confidence ends up coming later.
You are awesome, because that just got me so jazzed and so fired up, because for me, I was thinking of it as, I get that. I love that. I love all of that. And that's why I'm like, this is a chicken or the egg for me, because I'm torn. But for me, self-confidence, the relationship you have with yourself is you have to be able to already have the ability to put yourself in change the narrative, like have the thoughts that you, even if the ones sneak in, you have to be able to flip the narrative. You have to know that you can do that. And even if you do fail, you have the self-confidence in yourself to trust yourself already, to know that you can handle it and you'll get through it. And so I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I totally see your perspective too. And that's why I love this. It's like, there have to be like all differing viewpoints on how you get to the same goal, because everyone is different. And that's what I love about all these great healthy debates about how we all get to our best version of ourselves. And the road to getting there is going to look different, and perspectives are going to look different on what has to happen for us to get there.
So good. And it's such a fun time to be doing this kind of stuff. It is so fun. And we are, I mean, this is going to come out for not this week because it's Wellness Week. So it's really awesome, because wellness is starting to become such a big thing and such a hot topic which is amazing, because before was so undervalued, that was such a big part of who we are, and so it's an amazing thing. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the very first thing that you say in your 5 things to stop doing today. And I love it so much. I actually have an entire page on this one thing. So you have 5. I have an entire page on this one thing, and it's stop hustling.
Oh,
and
gosh,
it just nails it on the head for any woman. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're the career woman, you're the stay-at-home mom, you're the whatever, PTA president. Stop hustling. Okay. Hustling right into burnout and adrenal fatigue and low sex drive. And I was like, is she talking to me? Sallie, are you talking to me? It's exactly.
Not to mention, we lose every bit of our creative selves. And that's what I think is so phenomenal about women is we actually have an amazing ability to innovate and to be creative and approach circumstances with a creative mindset. But we lose all of that when we're hustling. And, I always tell people, because I get a lot of pushback on this. And by hustling, I mean hustling for your worth. And that means that you are placing your self-worth outside of yourself, that you are feeling compelled to do things that you're too tired to do, that you do not want to do, that you are unwilling to even slow down enough to evaluate whether or not they are things that you want to say yes to or want to say no to. And you're continuing in that, like you were saying, the wheel, the just complete rat race where you're feeling that sense of depletion because you can't remember the last time you did something for yourself, or that you said no just when you meant it instead of saying yes. And I think that, when we stop hustling for our worth and that we realize we are all worthy exactly where we are, exactly who we are, then, when we say no to something that isn't a great fit for us, we actually allow that opportunity to go to someone who it is a great fit for. See, we've set up a really bad dynamic where it is, if we were to say no, then it is detrimental to the other person. But what if that's not true? What if it is actually true that it is beneficial for them that you don't do it? What if it is, true that if a client doesn't align with you or a volunteer opportunity isn't within your wheelhouse, that you say no and that they find someone who is 10 times more passionate about that opportunity that they are able to gain service from? It is a win-win for both of you. And I think we've got to stop this, land of comparison and trying to outdo each other. So we say yes to everything and continue to hustle. And, so that our resume can be a place where we think externally it meets others' needs. Again, it's never going to happen. I mean, I hate to burst your bubble, but that's never going to happen. What happens eventually is you decide it's enough. That's it. One day you just decide it is enough. You are enough. That all of the things that you have done, all of the work you've put in, all of the years of experience is enough. And then you will begin to approach all of it completely differently. And you will realize you could have been doing it this way all along. And that's why I say to women, no, you don't have to say it with, any kind of ill intent or, malice, but you can say it with all the kindness in the world to say, hey, this isn't not feeling energetically like a great fit for me at the moment. I was hoping it was, but unfortunately it's not landing in that way. I want you to find the right fit, the best fit, the person that is going to approach it with the most energy that they possibly can. And I know you will find that person, and I wish you all the best.
It's being nice versus being kind. So I was trying really hard not to bring this up again, but so I recorded with a gal, Jerry Jorgensen. She was telling us about this. She's saying being nice and being kind are two completely different things. Being nice is not a good thing. Being nice is going to have detriment. Being kind is doing it for the best reasons, and in the long run, it's going to be the best for everybody. It may not feel that way at first in that moment, but it's going to be. It's you're doing it for the relationship, or you're doing it for, it's going to be best in the long run, right?
Right. I mean, in the moment, it feels uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. And that is very different than it actually being mean or rude or unkind. Yeah.
Because we've been, it takes us back to society grooming us to make us feel like we need to be yes and pleasers and whatever. Yeah. I was recording with a gal that does Enneagram coaching, and we were talking about how, so when I just took the random test online, it gave me this number, and I read the things, and they were like, you're driven by success. The only thing important to you is success. And I was like reading these things, and I'm like, this sounds horrible. I don't want to be this person. Never mind. That's not me. I'm going to take it again and try something else, And she's like, that's exactly the reaction that society has groomed into you. Because she says most people tend to be the two or whatever that are more like a people pleaser, because that's what society has groomed women to be. So they kind of tend to go that way. And she's like, so the fact that you're uncomfortable with that says a lot about what you're thinking about what people think of you.
So
and I was like, okay, maybe I do want to be it then. That's my number. You're right. But when you were talking about this is not belittling what you were saying, but it took me to this place where I am enough. Okay. I don't need to be everything you're telling me I need to be. I am enough. And that's an amazing thing. Do you know what it made me think of? Porches. Do you guys get this vibe in San Diego? Like, this is a Utah thing maybe, but your porch, and especially during the fall with the pumpkins and the things and everybody's porch, I'm like, yes, that's it. I'm done. I draw the line. I will not. I am not. And it's not cheap either, like, let's not get into the time and effort it takes. And then afterwards, Halloween's over, fall's over, and it's like, goodbye. The porch. That was my breaking point. I said no.
I love it. Okay.
So we go into 2. I'm dissecting this podcast episode, and I will link it because I loved it. I loved it so much. And stop when you're not inspired. Oh no, that one's not 2. Sorry. See, this is my whole page. I went into stop hustling. Stop using negative self-talk. So here we go back to, self-confidence and changing the narrative. And that's exactly what I'm talking about this month with my ladies. And it's I love it. Your thoughts are not only a magnet for what you want or not want, but they're a magnet for anything. Because if you're having negative thoughts, you're pulling negativity towards you. If you're having positive thoughts, you're pulling positivity towards you. But thoughts equal actions. Thoughts become actions. So if you're not thinking well, you're not going to be doing well, right?
Absolutely.
It seems so simple.
It does. It does. You know, I've had so many women. Obviously, I exclusively work with women, but I've had so many over the years say, "Well, I don't think I talk that poorly about myself." And I'll say, "Okay, well, let's try this little challenge then. I want you to write down on your hand. You know, I'm holding my hand up for a high five." And I want you to imagine writing down everything that you say to yourself today on your hand. And whenever you see someone, you have to hold it up to show them what you have said to yourself. And just go throughout your day. And then I want you to make note of those things and, you know, imagine yourself writing it on your hand. And some of the things they came back with, right, you guys aren't going to be surprised by, but obviously, even the most self-confident women are finding, oh, wow, what I say to myself out of habit is very enlightening. And again, we're not seeking perfectionism. We're simply saying that if you can slow down the negative self-talk, that you're actually speeding up, right, whatever it may be, your revenue, speeding up your happiness, your growth, all of the wonderful things, right, that you get to have on the other end of the spectrum. So, yeah, I mean, it just, even when you think, I'm not that bad. I don't talk about myself very poorly anymore. I've worked on this. I've seen quite a few women be shocked. Yeah, it's the simplest things too. Like, oh, that was so stupid of me, right? I mean, that's one of them. Or, oh, I can't believe I made that mistake. Or, oh my gosh, I'm always doing that. Or, right. And those are just all shame-based statements that we, you know, that include negative self-talk that we just, through the drop of a hat, just repeat out of habit without noticing it. And when we can stop some of that, then we can really start doing something wildly different.
I love that challenge. I'm going to put that to my members too. I love that challenge because it's true, because it becomes like, so we had our weekly call. I call them my rally calls, and it's our weekly community call last night. And one of my members said that similar situation, but in her squad, they're talking about not comparing, like not being in the compare game. And she's like, I've always felt like I'm good at that. Like I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that that's one of my problems. And she said, now that I'm super aware of it, it's happening and I'm seeing it. Like it's in there. It's in there that she didn't notice before. And that's just like these words. They're in there floating around. And even though it's not like, oh, I'm so ugly or I'm so fat or I'm so, you know, it's not the obvious things that you would think would be negative self-talk. But it's like you said, like for me, the one that creeps in is I break promises to myself. You know, like I overschedule. And so then I have to maybe cancel something and I'm like, oh my gosh. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it doesn't seem like that's a bad thing, right? But if you look at it, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So it's being intentional about seeing them.
It's just one of the things that we can easily clean up when we become aware of it. And I'm all for contributing to my own success in the easiest, most beneficial way. And, you know, helping myself be the most powerful, best version of me I can be. And it doesn't always have to come with these, you know, monumental changes and acquisitions of big, huge things. And you really can make these small shifts, and they will make just as big of a difference, I find, as even the achievement of some, you know, great award or something.
Absolutely. I agree. I love habits. I love habits so much, and Atomic Habits. And I think they absolutely put us in the path more than what one big win would have done.
Right.
A bunch of tiny things get us moving further, because the one thing kind of, you do it and you're done. You're like, woohoo. And then the little things, they're just every day. It's small things that you don't notice. Slow and steady wins the race, right? I mean, there you go. Let's throw some cliches at this. Okay, so we already talked about perfection, so I'm gonna skip over that, but I will actually say, did you hear Minda at Unstoppable talk about Wabi Sabi? About her? No. Did you see? Okay, so, and it was funny too, because my Instagram account before I started all of this, that I've had, my personal one, is called Pure Imperfection. And I've had that for years and years and years. And that's our travel one. And so when I had my guest Heidi Powell on here, she also had something, and we didn't know before we had talked. And she also had a series that she did about imperfections, right? And showing her flaws and imperfections. She says it's the Japanese philosophy of wabi sabi. And it's finding beauty in the imperfections, right? Yeah. There's no such thing as perfection. That's pretty simple to say, but there are it's the fixed mindset is a perfectionist. I think the fixed mindset is it has to be done this way. It looks a certain way. This is it, and the growth mindset is, I think, embracing the flaws, embracing imperfections and
uniqueness.
The uniqueness. Yeah, that makes us each special, and what's going to be amazing because we're bringing that uniqueness. That goes back to not having to prove your worth, right? You're not proving your worth. You are doing things not because I can get 50 things done in a day. I am the best. I did one thing today, but damn, I did it well, right? Yeah. I made a difference. I made it, it was one thing I did today. Anyway, so sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I think I did one thing today, and that was the most I had to give today. That was my 100% today, and that is good enough. Our 100% that we have to give on a day-to-day basis varies tremendously, based on how much sleep we had, what emotionally might be happening to us, triggering us, heck, our hormones. Like, we don't have control over it. And one day it's going to look, your 100% is going to look wildly different than it may look the very next day. And I think if we can be more forgiving about that, then of ourselves, and just have a greater understanding that, just like you were saying, being busy isn't something to have a badge of honor, that you put on, and instead it should be, right, your badge of honor should be about, cultivating your own happiness.
I love that you just said that. I literally was going to skip ahead, and it says overwhelm and busy like a badge of honor. Why? Is that hilarious? I wanted to skip ahead because while we're talking about that, I love that you said that in the part 2 of this, because why do we think that? And this is the part that before we started recording, I says, I'm going to bring this back up because you nailed it. You hit it on me. And that's my day today even, is you're like, why are you just running around like a crazy person? And when people ask you how your day is going, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, I have this, that, and the other. And it's like a badge of honor. And it's like, stop. Just start thinking of how are you today? I am so well because today I did this, or today I did this, or what, it's not stop wearing this badge of honor. Like, pat me on the back because I am working myself into the grave. Doing what? Like busy work? Is it even getting me anywhere? Or am I, like you said, I'm on this track, instead of getting to my destination, I'm over here like spinning around and around.
Right. 100%.
It's so frustrating.
You could be busy as all get out, but on a complete detour, and doing half the work and achieve your, greatest potential. And I just think that if instead of applauding busy, we can applaud being productive and, right, pursuing our potential, then, we can really go back to valuing our own happiness. And instead, it's as though I don't know, maybe I'm off course, but I just feel like it's as though no one wants to admit that they are happy, that they've done, that they've said no to a couple of things and, had great boundaries today and did the right amount of things and felt like they had a really happy day, right? I mean, when's the last time you heard anyone say that with authenticity? And people don't, I think, and the only reason has to be that there's some sort of fear that that is not permissible. But it is. And I really feel like that's what we ought to want to pursue. I spoke to a group of juniors and seniors in high school recently, and their questions were around the fact of whether it is the pursuit of income and stability or happiness. And my statement to them was the same thing that I say to entrepreneurs still. It is not either or, it is and both. But they're only going to believe that when we show them that you can have and both, right? A career and happiness, right? And that's where I think if not for ourselves, then at least for them, we've got to stop wearing that badge of busy as something that we value more than happiness. Mm-hmm.
I have two directions for this. So I hope I wrote myself a little note to come back to this, but that's exactly what my husband and I have been. That's kind of the philosophy of our life. Is he could have stayed and kept grinding and kept making money and kept, he's got friends that have done that and they're doing so well. They're very successful. Or his mentor who is wildly successful. And he went back and asked, like, why do you still do it? You don't need to do it anymore. And he just loves doing it. And that's fine. But my husband said, I had to make the conscious decision that this is enough. And now I want to use enough to go live the life that I want to live, to make the memories I want to make, it is, you don't have to keep going. It's figure out what is enough. And I don't think people know what enough is. I think that's the problem with the people that can't get out of the rat race, can't get done with the grind, is because they don't know what enough is.
Well, you're never going to know what enough is when it is always external, right? Because you're waiting to feel happy when right? And you're always going to move the needle on that. So when I buy the house, take the dream vacation, when I can afford to do X. And so it's never going to be enough when what it is that you're attempting to achieve is external.
Right.
If it is internal, something that you're attempting to achieve, then you will always know when to draw the line. It will become evident to you when it is enough because, right, you maybe have done what I refer to as the hard work of like evaluating yourself and what it is you feel like you're meant to do and your personal decisions and your professional decisions and, make the hard decisions to do the things that drive you closer to your potential. That is really hard in today's day and age because everybody else says, but you can't be happy now, right? You can only be happy when. And, the sooner we can realize we can be happy the moment we decide to be, then, here's the crazy thing about it. We will actually earn more. We will actually magnetize to us more than ever before. We will actually typically outperform what we were doing previously. But yeah, it's not an external game. It's all an internal one.
I'm posting that. I'm still in it and I'm posting it. We can be happy the moment we decide to be. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped.
Yep.
Done. Thanks for recording. We'll see you later. No. So what I wrote down actually was funny. What we were talking about just a little bit before that was these kids, was I did a post earlier, like last week or something. I don't know anyway, but it was like, brag about your life. Brag about it. Oh, you said we don't say, I'm happy today. Like, how are you? I'm happy today. I am great. Yeah. I am doing so well. Like, why don't we do that? It feels like we can't do that. It feels like it's more appropriate. The appropriate response is to say, I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, I'm running around like a crazy person. Women, it's like, I'm a hot mess. The whole hot mess mom, that's the whole vibe right now, right? And it's like, why can't it be, I'm so good. I had a great morning. I had a fulfilled morning. I had, whatever. And I said, brag about your life, because who else is going to? And if you can't brag about your life, you need to change your life. Like, it's obviously not the life you are wanting to live. It's not the dream that you have for yourself. It's not the vision that you have for yourself, because you don't want to brag about it. I'm not saying be a tool and be all, hey, look at, that kind of bragging. The distinction between that kind of bragging is you're bragging for the external. You're bragging to prove something. You're bragging to show someone. You're bragging to make me feel better about myself because I'm going to show you that I am that important, right? But bragging about your true happiness, people aren't going to like it either because they're not happy with themselves, but brag about it. Be proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, there is a huge pendulum, right? Is what you're saying, that there is the fear of being the person that that is very braggadocious and annoying. And so our fear of being that person, to counterbalance that, we go the exact opposite direction to avoid becoming that person and fail to own any of our accomplishments. And so, that's what I really call it with everyone that I'm coaching, is I want you to own your accomplishments, because when you do, you give every other woman permission to own theirs as well. And that, we aren't bragging when we're doing that. We're owning things that we worked extraordinarily hard for, and owning that doesn't at all swing the pendulum to 10, right? Your tendency to avoid, right, like being Joe Schmo or whatever it is that you envision is the really annoying person that always brags about themselves, is going to mean that you, even when you do own your accomplishments, you're still probably going to be rather humble about it. So lean a little bit more closer to 4, 5, and 6. And own those accomplishments, right? The saying always is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so if we have more women out there saying what they have done, then you're only giving more women a chance to see what they can be. And
show the process, show the hard work. Don't be this fake it till you make it or whatever. Show the hard work, show the process. So that way it's like you're saying, so that way when you're owning it, you're owning your own accomplishments. It's not bragging. You're not lucky. No. You're not, it wasn't handed to you. It was, you just watched me do this. You just watched this whole process, and it sucked and it was hard, and it's okay to say that, but
exactly
that way it makes it even sweeter at the end when you get there.
Yeah.
So that brings us right to stop questioning your greater dream.
Yeah.
This is huge in my community, because it is hard to ask women to, especially women who are stay-at-home moms, mothers, which love it. Love it all. Love it. But it's hard to ask them to, what was your dream for you? Like when you were a little girl, what did you envision? Yes, you maybe envisioned being a mommy, and that's fine. But did you envision having a garden? Did you envision writing a book? Did you envision public speaking? Did you envision, these are all things that you can do as well as being a wife and a mommy, as well as, and I think notoriously women have no idea what that is. They're like, I don't know.
I know. I hear it all the time, that they lack the clarity of what it is that they would want to create. My sentiment always to them is, you do know, it's just so hidden beneath all of the other stories that are involved and all of the other years of other people telling you, right, that you either can't have it, shouldn't do it, shouldn't want it, all of that has been piled on top of it, so much so that you've kind of forgotten. But at any point you can uncover it again. And most of the time it is easily uncoverable. And you can do it with simply reconnecting with as most of the time, what was it when you were a child? What was it when you were even, a young adult that brought you that sense of like joy and freedom and made time go by in an instant? What were you doing in those circumstances? And oftentimes I'll see this little glimmer of, well, I was, this or that, or I, always had a dream that I would, write a book or be an author or, something. And so they typically know, they just fear saying it out loud. And I think, just my humble opinion has been that I think it's because so often they're told that there will be detrimental or negative consequences to them or their families if they were to pursue it. And so they tend to forget about it, cover it up, because the belief is, again, it can't be either, it has to be either or, it can't be and both. That, I need to put that thing away because I've chosen. Like, I chose kids, that's it, that I'm done, right? I don't get any more choices. And that's just not true. You can choose again at any time, and it doesn't have to have a detrimental effect on your previous choice, right? And that, my statement to them is, what if it could have a positive effect, right? Your assumption is, if we're going to be assuming and we're going to assume something, why don't we assume something positive? Why do we have to assume that it will be negative? Use the same characteristics that you're using right now to assume that it will go negatively, to flip it, because you don't know. And it all is just a feeling. And, so yes, we've got to dissect the two. Remember that it doesn't have to have negative consequences on the choices that you've already made, and then give yourself a chance to walk back to your roots of who you are, and then take the next step, right? I mean, so many of them are like, yes, but then this will happen and this and this and this. And I'm like, but that could be years away, right? That could be, and you don't know that. You don't know any of those things are going to happen. Right? And every single step along the way, you get to choose again. Who's to say that in 6 months you would choose not to do it again? But you will know more about you in the process of going through the evolution of trying.
Yeah, no one's saying you have to commit to it. Just because you made the decision to do it. Just because I made the decision to go to culinary school doesn't mean I have to become a chef.
Or a lawyer.
Maybe, or a lawyer.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to commit to it. You just have that extra knowledge. Just think of it as more, who is it? Melanie and Seth Studley. They say more tools in your tool belt. You just have that extra tool in your tool belt, right? So anyway, okay. So the last one on this, and not really because you went on to part 2, but the last one for me is stop thinking that you need to be an expert. Oh my gosh. That is like, why do we all think we have to be you have this imposter syndrome all the time? And it's like, why? Do you not have a story to tell? Do you not have something that's good about you that you can share with someone else? Yes, I know you do. Everyone does. Everyone has something that they can bring to something. Yes, I'm not going to be a surgeon. I'm not going to be a cardiac surgeon. I'm not an expert in that. I would like the experts to be experts in that. But if you have a passion, right? There you
Absolutely.
go. If you have a passion.
I think that we've gotten too far into this land of, believing that we add no value, that we don't add any value to, our discipline, to our industry, unless we are the best of the best, unless we can be an expert we will not try. And I say that you add value at whatever level that you're at within your particular industry, and that there are people out there that are clamoring for your voice right now, and that they want to hear your perspective. And that at the end of the day, there's no one coming along that is going to crown you as an expert, right? So somewhere along the way, you simply crown yourself. So we shouldn't let this idea that, oh, but I would have to put thousands of hours in, that whole 10,000 hour thing. I would have to, right, become the foremost expert. And so we allow that to deter us from getting started at all. And it just is all, again, false. And it just is one of the things that stops us way too often from getting started. And, you know, the dream that you have within you wouldn't be there if it weren't meant for you. Quantum physics says that you wouldn't be able to attract it. It wouldn't resonate with you if it weren't meant for you. So if you have a dream, you are intended to carry that out. So get started. And the only way to eventually even become the expert that you so desire or want to be is simply to start. No expert started as an expert. They started as a beginner in the same way that you did.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I thought about it as develop being able to know what you want and how to ask for it. That, I think, is something you can become an expert in yourself, right? You become an expert in yourself. I mean, and you really can't, because you change. Like you said, we change 4 times a month. So, I mean, but become basically an expert in yourself, because that is something you can control. And then once you're an expert in yourself, you know what you want, you know how to ask for it, you know how to communicate with people for it, you know how to be, like you said, charming, charismatic. You have all these other things that just because you're not the expert in digital marketing, because you can't be. There's so much information and it's constantly changing. You can't be. But you can be the expert in yourself. So do that.
Yeah. No one has had the experiences, you know, the unique viewpoint, perspective, any of it that you have had. And all of that adds value. So we are all valuable, even if we are not all experts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could open that up, because that could go down to the whole different like rabbit hole there. I mean,
so true.
You get into what something is supposed to look like. Because I've finally, starting January, we separated into squads. And so I had to have squad leaders, right? I had to have the team leaders. And so these women who have never felt like they should be doing that, I'm like, yep, you're doing it. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what do you think a leader is? This is a leader. You are giving yourself in this way. And that's why that's beautiful. And it's amazing. It's not, you don't have to look like, you know, what is his name? John Maxwell. Just because you don't look like him and sound like him and talk like him, you're not a leader. Like why do we put ourselves, like you said, it's back to full circle, the little box. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in the little box. Well, before I let you go, can we please, because Lindsay's so sick of talking to me about your amazing retreat that's coming up April 30th. Oh, yes. I am so excited. And she's like probably ready to just stop talking to me, because she's like, are you coming? Are you not coming? Are you coming? Are you not coming? And I'm like, I want to come so bad, but we don't know where we're going to be yet. So I told Rick today, I'm like, we have to figure this out today. I have got to have some closure on this. It's taking up too much of my brain power. But so this is your 4th annual Brim retreat. And I don't I opened with that, but your Brim community, did that start as a mastermind and turn into a community?
It did.
That's what I thought. Because I think when I first started talking to you, it was a mastermind, and now it's a community. Yeah,
we expanded quite a bit in January. We added 12 coaches.
Yes.
So we have these incredible industry-specific coaches in all kinds of industries that really, address the needs of what most female entrepreneurs are focused in. So a lot of creative pursuits like interior design, product development, retail, e-com, creative services, marketing, all of these things that women typically, have unique attributes in. And so it gives women an opportunity to be in these small groups of no more than 12, but then also have the greater community that they get to engage with and interact with. So it's been really rewarding. So yeah,
I'm so excited for it. So that is what we can expect, anybody who looks into this. So what's your website? Because your Instagram is _brim, right? Am I
correct?
Thinking right? I'll put it in the notes, but what's the website?
It's growwiththebrim.com. And you can find all the information about the retreat there, our masterminds, and the coaches. Of course, we offer one-on-one coaching as well. And what's great is anyone who feels this, tug or calling to be, an entrepreneur or start something, we have a coach for you that's going to guide you from beginning all the way to wherever it is that you want to go, multi 6 figures, 7 figures, even 8. So that's really what we specialize in, is helping you create a long-term sustainable business, one that runs well and functions eventually without you, so that it can run and make you money in ways that can allow you the freedom and financial stability that you deserve. So,
that's speaking my language, because we live by that. We can't be here doing this. We got to be somewhere exploring something. So,
exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was such a good conversation. It was exactly what I hoped for. It's what I envisioned for us. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here with me.